Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to your live Investment Dominator Q&A call. And I'm Warren Davis, and we're glad to be here with you. I want to make sure that we first start out, as usual, doing a sound check and a screen check to make sure you can see your questions answered. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Brian. I always appreciate your comments there. First thing on a Monday evening makes me smile. Thank you much. I'm glad you can hear me loud and clear all the way over there in Arkansas. Okay, well, now that the sound check is done, and we're so glad to be back here with you. We had a great 2-day workshop. I'm thinking some of the folks may be on here from that 2-day workshop. We also have several more new people that have joined us that we'll be having another workshop on, I believe it's September 26th and 27th, another Thursday and a Friday. And we will look forward to meeting a lot of you that are going to be at that workshop. I do have several of you that are on here that will probably be doing some onboard calls with me, and I appreciate you getting signed up and getting those calls scheduled as quickly as possible, because we just have 2 calls before the next workshop. So if we could get those, scheduled and completed, and of course the top 3 items that we'll be looking at, will I've been sharing them lately on the calls, but basically we appreciate if you be logged into Investment Dominator, and if you get your signature and your company information set up in the system. And then thirdly, we'd like you to have your custom domains, which means if you have to call GoDaddy or if you're using another domain provider, we actually need to have the name of that domain provider, and make sure that we have them pointing their WWC name record to the investmentdominator.com server. So those 3 items we need to have completed before you come to the next 2-day call. We did have a few people on the last 2-day call that didn't have that completed, and it just takes a little extra time, and then you miss out on other sessions while we're trying to get you set up on your domains. So if you can have those set up, I'm just going to start announcing it now, so that here in the next month, hopefully everybody will have that handled. So we're gonna get into answering your questions. We have quite a few questions that are been left over from the last week. I wasn't able to be with you on Thursday, but Alex covered the questions that he had coming in. He said there was a lot of questions coming in, which we do appreciate that. Still getting a lot of questions around importing, so I will be looking at some of the questions. We have at least 6 questions to handle this evening that are just around importing. So those of you, I hope everyone will hang in there with us and get your questions. Please send them in. Write them into me even right now, so that if I can't get them handled today, I will definitely get them handled by Thursday, 12 noon. Okay. So again, if you're brand new with us, this is just a way to help you send in your questions. Please write in your questions box and just hit send. Don't worry about the hand raising. I usually can't see that anyway. Yes, I'm hearing, is there any sound? Well, yes, there's sound. So you might try turning up your volume on your computer, Robert, if you can hear me. But if you aren't getting any sound, then you may have to log out of this session and log back in, and you should be getting sound. So let's see, I'm going to check mine just to make sure. Yep, I'm transmitting, and I have my indicators are showing that I'm blasting you guys away. So anyway, in terms of sending in your questions, when you write a question, please put a question mark or the word question before your actual question. And I'd appreciate it if you could put the subject that you're talking about. Like if it's around importing, just put import, or go on and ask your question about importing, but at least put a question mark or the word question. That way I can make a distinction between comments and questions. So hopefully those of you that are brand new will be able to pick that up. And we're going to go on and get question number 1. was based on the getting ready for the 2-day workshop. And we had a question coming in. And I think it's been answered for Richa, but it may have other questions for other individuals. So I'm just going to address this question. Richa had asked the question, since she wasn't able to sign up for all of the onboard classes, she had heard that there was a video that I made regarding what's required for the first, before you get to the 2-day workshop. So that's the question. Basically, what recording is available for the Investment Dominator 2-day workshop students? And that, I can honestly tell you, is available. And all you would have to do is contact Jenny Peterson, at the office, and she will give you the recording, for which we usually handle on the second onboard question. But that recording basically talks to you about logging on, shows you how to set up your signature, your company info, and how to set up your custom domains. So basically that particular video does exist, and if you call the office, they will get it to you. Okay, so that's question number 1. And number 2, we're going to work with, okay, it starts our importing question. It says, do you know if importing a .csv created by Google Sheets works as well as one created by Excel? This was from last week, and it was from Neil. So Neil asked, do we know if importing a .csv created by Google Sheets works as well as one created by Excel? And Neil, I can tell you, it actually should work the same if the .csv file is what we call a comma delimited file. And what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'll bring over our Investment Dominator screen. And so we're talking about, this .csv here is an example of the type of file that we would bring in, or we would import in. So what I'll do is just bring one up and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Sorry if this is too much of a repeat for other individuals, but it's important that we understand what type of files need to be imported. So if I was going to bring a file in from Excel that I was going to import, okay, so this is an example of an import file. When you go up here and you hit Save As you can see, it says it's CSV, comma delimited. Now I'm just going to show you as I look at all the possible combination of files to come into Excel. One is an Excel workbook, and you see it's a .xlsx. That's just a different formatted file. So if you try to import that into Investment Dominator, it's probably not going to like it. The one we're looking for is the one that says CSV, comma delimited, and it's a .csv file. So you can see there's a CSV for Macintosh, there's a CSV for MS-DOS. Don't use those, even though you might be on a Macintosh. I don't know that it would be a problem for sure, but I've just noticed that the best and safest one to select is the CSV, comma delimited. And if you save that file, you save your Excel X file as a .csv file, comma delimited, you should be able to import it into Excel just fine. If you don't, you could possibly get a message, that says it is an invalid formatted file. So we're going to get to another question about that shortly. But hopefully that will take care of that question number 2. Okay, and then we had another question, okay, still around the actually Excel or the .csv files. So the question came in from Caesar and Shonda. So are you able to change colors And this is a very good question in .csv files. Yes, and okay, the answer to the question, the quick answer and the short answer to the question is no, you cannot actually change colors in a .csv file. You can change colors in a .xls X file. If it says .xls and then X, that you can change colors in that. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So here is one that's a .csv file. If we say save as, we'll see it's a .csv and it's comma delimited. You can see that right here. So if I were to go in here and change the text color, this is what Shonda is really asking about. If I go in here and change this to red and I save this file, if I exit out, which I'll just go on and quit, make sure I know sample letters, letter list. Okay, so I will exit out of this. It says yes, I want you to save. I save it. Okay, go away already. All right, there you go. Okay, so if I call this back up again, you can see that this my color went away because it is a .csv. It's a comma delimited file, and it doesn't handle the colors. Now this is important because one of the processes, business processes we've been sharing with people have to do with them being able to, at some point, if they have a master file, being able to change that file. And so the fact that it doesn't hold colors, let's see, I had an example here. I'm looking for my .xlsx file. I'll just open up another one here that can be imported. Okay, so if we do a file save as here, you notice it's an Excel workbook. XLSX type is the extension on this file. So in this example, if I were to change several of these to red and I save that file and then I quit, and I'm going to call that back up again, that same file. As you can see, my colors remain, and the reason for that is the fact that this is an XLX, it's a workbook. It's a different than the .csv. .csv is comma delimited, so it's expecting to process these fields. In this XLX workbook, this is more like for display purposes, so it will hold and it will process colors. Excel is primarily a computational program, so it's when it comes to its working with numbers, it will not hold or deal with any of the color. So that's important for you to know. If you're going to have a master file, let's just say, well, I'm going to cover that in just a little bit. I'll move on to the next question before I get into that. But just want you to know, Caesar and Shonda, you're not able to change colors in your .csv file. Okay, and then let's see, David asked a question here. Let me see, Brian had a question around yes, Brian, I'll get to your question about the cover letter for the second offer, basically tweaking, Jack's offer letter. We'll get into that hopefully towards the end of this call, but I'll get an answer for you. If not today, you will definitely have an answer by Thursday, and you can play Thursday's call back if you're not on the call, and you'll find your answer there. So David had a question about, again, how do I have my .csv import? Oh, bring in latitude and longitude. Good question. how to bring in a latitude and longitude in individual seller records. So that's basically, how do we import a file that has on it longitude and latitude so it shows up in Investment Dominator. Very good. And for those of you that may be brand new, what we're talking about here is if you come into your land deals records and you edit any of your records as they come in. Now remember, this is in prospect status, so these have come in via an import or somebody created the record. But what Dave is talking about here is he wants to be able to have a property address that's latitude and longitude. So these are property coordinates. And he wants to have those brought into Excel so he doesn't have to enter them. He wants to have them imported. And that's an excellent question. So we're going to deal with that right now. Basically, if I go up here and I'll hit help, and we'll get into searching our user guide. And I'm just going to type in import. Okay, import. And that should bring up a list of articles. All these are articles on different subjects. And we're going to look for how to import your list for land investing. So if we're dealing with the fields that can be imported, which are these fields, remember the field names that are in this column, field name, type, first name, last name, these are your headers in your files. So if we come down to your import files and we see property address here. So basically, Dave, if you're going to bring in latitude and longitude from some external source, you're going to import it into Investment Dominator. It has to have a column that says property address. Within that column, your property address can be either an actual street address, if you have that, or you can have GPS coordinates. So if you're dealing with, was that Agent Pro 247 or Robo Gateway, either one of those, and they have the option for you to send in your GPS coordinate, you could specify that coordinate, and let's see, when you bring it into Excel, these are your fields that you have to have coming into Excel. You would simply have to have another field that says property address. So you have to import that spelled just like you see me spell it here. So it has to have a column, and it has to have capital PROPERTY, capital space, capital ADD, and the word address, okay? Property address. And it's got to look just like that for Investment Dominator. And then of course you'd have your coordinates listed here. So that when it does come into Investment Dominator, it's going to pick up that field, and basically when it comes in, it populates here. You went into your edit record, you would see that show in your property address, longitude and latitude. That's the only way to get it in an import. So hopefully that provides a little clarity there for you, Dave, on that one, and we'll move on. Okay. Okay, I see your question there too, James, on your first page. Okay, your sales meeting, your signature line. Okay. Okay, your signature line on your offer letter, and hopefully we'll get to that question as well before the end of this call. Those are very, very good questions. I haven't seen that one on your signature line, but we will get to it. Okay. Yes, okay. The question that just came in, and we can keep on the import. is, do you have to have first name and last name? And I'm assuming, okay, from the question, these are your headers, remember, that come in when you import. So you have first name and you have last name. So the question is, do you have to have first name and last, as well as last name? And headers, the headers must be capitalized, just like you see here, first name, last name. So yes, the answer is yes. You need to have first name and last name. If you only have a first initial, put that in the first name, and last name, spell out the last name. If you don't, when you import into Investment Dominator, those records will, especially if there's a PSN, excuse me, an APN, if you have an APN number and you have a zip and a state and you have all these other required fields filled in, and it's an individual, remember, if it's an individual we're processing, it definitely has to have a first name and a last name. And then all these other fields are required. Company, it would not be required because it's an individual record. If it is a company that we're dealing with, church, a trust, an LLC, etc., corporation, if it's a company, you don't have to have first and last name, but you must have a company name. So basically, I hope that's clear. If you're dealing with an individual record and you don't have a first and a last name, Investment Dominator will spit it out. You won't process that record. If you have a company name, but you don't have a company name spelled out, if you're saying the type is company, but you don't have a company name, Investment Dominator will spit that out as an error and that record won't be processed. So I hope that's clear. We get that question a lot because for some reason students, I don't think they're paying attention to the fact that they're dealing with an individual or a company. So it's no problem. That's just the way it has to be, so that Investment Dominator will process that record. And so then there was a subsequent question about that, which has to do with if it's a trust. What about if it's a trust? Okay, if it is a trust, it normally gets classified as a company. So whatever type you specify associated with that record in your import file, remember? Okay, that one doesn't have what I'm looking for. So we'll look at the other one we had. Hopefully, okay, that one doesn't have exactly what I'm looking for either. So we'll look at one of these here. Hopefully, okay, here we go. So just to make sure everybody's clear, if it's an individual, if the type is individual, you should have a first and last name. If the type is company, like a trust, you don't need first and last name, but you do need a company name, and it'll be specified or categorized as a company. All right, very good. All right, we're going to move on here to our next set of questions. Okay, this is in a different area altogether. We're going to deal with it right here. It came from Arthur, and he asked the question, how to remove the sell your house. And we get this ever so often. I think I got this at the 2-day workshop that we were at the other day from the buying site. And it's just for some, it's totally understandable. It's a kind of, some people just don't want to see on their buying site they, they're into land, so they don't want to see anything about sell your house. They've even taken it out of the offer. I think it defaults to the fact that, we give cash for your land or house. Some folks don't mind leaving that in, but a lot of folks just want to, say, hey, I'm doing land. I'm doing anything with houses. So basically, I don't want that in. How can I get it out? So in order to get this little guy out here, this link, so that people can't even click on it, we go back into our Investment Dominator. Let's look at customizing, and we're going to look at our buying site specifically. Okay, so this is your buying site, and you see where it says Managing Buying Site Menu. We select that, and this box will come up, and it's a very simple move. But there's two things people forget here. So here's your sell your house link, and you notice it's under the header menu. So that means it's going to show up. So all you do is, I'm left clicking on, put my cursor on this sell your house. I'm left clicking and I'm holding it down. Very important to hold it down, and you just drag it up to the not set portion of this managing your buying site header. So once you put it up into not set, don't forget to save it. And this is what a lot of folks forget, to save it. And okay, so they save it there, but then they don't save it on the site. It's got to be, you got to update your site now. Okay, so that's two saves basically. And once you've done that, if you go back up here and you just select buying site, you'll come down and you'll notice, voila, it's gone. So it's as simple as that to manage moving any of the links that we have built in. And of course, if you don't mind it being there and you want it there, just go back into manage your buying, and let's see, move the sell your house back down here, save it again, and of course update your site. And it should be back on there again. If it's not, I will be upset. No, it's there. We're good. So sell your house, you can remove it, or you can leave it there. But that's basically the fastest way to get rid of that. Okay, if there's any questions around that, we'll take questions around that specifically. That's pretty straightforward. So hopefully you got that. Let's see. Question, let's see. Two-page agreement. So now, so there's a question that came in. Let's see. Oh, okay. We kind of covered this a little bit, but we'll look at it again here real quick. So when uploading a .csv to Investment Dominator, okay, that's what we were looking at last time. Why do we get an unknown format? And why is unknown format message? And I think we identified, if it does say .csv, the important thing to look at, and we'll have to just keep looking at this until we make sure everybody's got it. When you save your file, and you see it's this one is .xls, right? If you're going to save your import, the file you're going to import, you have to come down and select specifically the CSV comma delimited. Don't, just for safety, don't look at any other CSV designation. Make sure it's CSV, comma, delimited. And that should eliminate it being of an improper format, because if it is a .csv, the only reason why it would still give you invalid file format is because either, now sometimes people do this. They will, let's see, let me close that up. Okay, so sometimes students will, as you save as, this extension will actually be XLSX, right? But they'll try to save it as, a .csv. It probably would have been better for me to use the other file for this example. Sorry about that. Let's use one that's okay, .xls file. So what happens, a student will come in and they'll see this. Now it's clearly, it's saying it's an XLSX file, and they might try to just put on here .csv, but so they change it here thinking that that's going to change it. But see, Excel has this designated as a .xlsx file. So just changing this extension doesn't work as long as Excel sees it as a .xlsx file. I hope that's clear. So what you have to do is you always have to come over here, make sure you get your drop down, and then select the right file. And I'm not going to save it as that, but you have to select the right file so that Excel knows this is the type of file format you're saving it as. Okay, I hope that made sense to everybody. Let's see, I'm trying to find a tutorial. How to add a cover letter. It's different from Jack Bosch version. Okay, so Brian, let me see if I can handle that question you have right there. So you're looking for a tutorial on the Investment Dominator ID on how to add a cover letter. Okay, it just dawned on me, you said cover letter for a second offer. Okay, that's different from the Jack Bosch version. Well, I don't think there is a tutorial on that. When we come in here to land deals and we look at our cover letters, I'll just try to figure this out right now, but let's select this one, this record, and we'll generate documents. So far as the cover letter is concerned, all right, let me do it a different way here and generate documents. Open up our cover letters. Okay, so this would be an example. So if you actually want to tweak this letter, you want to change something on this letter, this cover letter, I think the only tutorials we have allows you to change the offer letter. I type in Jack, let's see here. So how to customize Jack's offer templates, his neutral letter, and this particular one. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Offer cover letter template. Good. That's what I'm looking for. So Yes, we did cover this, but I'll show you real quick, Brian, here. So the important thing is we want to do all of these steps because this should take care of the cover letter template. And I make sure, okay, perfect. So if I come in here to Investment Dominator and I want to go under Customize, and I want to say add a document. So I'm going to select Custom Documents, and I'm going to add a document. I'm going to select Land Only, and in terms of document, now it says you can select a doc or PDF file. There is a difference between how one will generate. I always select both because I want to be able to modify it in Word, and I also want to be able to have my PDF version. If it's the correct version, I want to be able to just send out my PDF version from there. So custom offer let see 05. That's what we're going to call that. And under the status, obviously I'll be putting pending preliminary research, and I'm going to leave the document type portrait. Gave it a title name. Now on this particular, this is the step here where you would want to modify this particular letter, and so you select that this content, and again, this is going to give you HTML code. So what I'm doing here is I'm holding down my left click button, and I am selecting this entire amount of code. I want to copy this now into Investment Dominator, into that template. So first thing, let's see here. Okay, under Investment Dominator. So in order for me to copy in that code, when I get to this step, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this source button. What that's going to do is it disables all of the HTML selections, if you will, that we can possibly. And the only thing it's going to do is allow you to copy in code at this level. So you make sure that once you hit that source button, that you are now ready to copy in this code. So you can either drag and select all of the data like I did, or you can hold down the control key and hit A. That selects all of this at the same time. So after I did my control A, I'm going to do a control C, which is copy. And that copies this into my buffer that's going to, so that I can now, don't tell me what I do. Let's see, did I do it? Let me check here. Yep, I did. Sorry about that. When I add a document, I do those steps all over again. Land only, and I'm going to say both. Custom offer let 05. It's going to be under pending preliminary research. Here's the status. It's going to say portrait. I'm going to come in here and I'm hitting source. It means I want to copy all my code. Now I'm going to do a control V as in Victor, and it copies all of the code that was in my buffer. This is all under HTML. Now, just so that you're not expected to do anything with HTML code. So let me make sure I get rid of that. So what we're going to do now is hit this source again. Hit that source a second time. As you can see, it brings it into English, at least where you can now make any modifications. So the way you would do this at this point, now you're about to make a custom letter. All right. And I'll just type in so let's say this is this is the change I wanted to make to this letter. custom offer letter. So I'm then going to, and I'm going to just bold this so that we make sure we can see our changes. So now, what I'm ready to do is finish up the remainder of this letter, and I want to make sure that I, allow. I think I want to make this a label. I want to allow export data, yes. I want to allow bulk data, yes. And after it goes from pending preliminary research status, we're going to move it to offer option sent status. For each property, we'll leave that as yes as well. Okay, and then we're just going to add this guy. So remember, this is the change we made, custom offer letter. We add this guy. And Investment Dominator always puts any new additions to the very end of the list. So all these are custom letters we've added. We're on the second page here. And you can see custom offer letter 05 is right here. So, and it's based on pending preliminary research status. If I want to preview that document, I can do it right here. This is a cool feature that Alex added. And as you can see, my change is right here, custom offer letter. That's the only change we made. So any changes you make now will be put in that particular version. And if you wanted to test that with any of your offers, you simply go up here and on the bulk level, generate documents. We'll say generate documents. Now, I won't come to my offer letter here, but I'm going to come down to where I created my custom offer letter 05 template, right? And when I open that out, here it will have, that's how I will get it on all of my offer letters. Whatever changes I made, you can see are showing up now on every one of my offer letters. That's the customized offer letter. And so you have to remember, because sometimes students will add an offer, a new version of an offer letter, but they forget to use the customized version, and they're looking for their changes to be under this offer letter. And remember, these are all the built-in offer letters that Jack has already and Alex and them have already put into the system. So it's important for you to come down. Any changes you make, you have to come down to your custom document template and find your customized document that you produced, and that's where you'll see your changes. Okay. Good question, people. We will, that's for Brian. Hopefully, Brian, that gives you some, okay. So, okay. You got it, Brian. Glad could help you there. All right. So let's see what's the next question coming in. We have time for a few more questions. Coming in, okay. Why does it create? We captured that question. We have another question from Caesar and Shanda on what do you do with old mail letter 1 prospects? That's a good question. With old mailed letter 1 prospects, which, so what has happened, remember, if it's in mail letter 1, you have already sent these folks, so these are all your prospects, you've already sent them at least one letter, and the system, and after you got done with that, you went up under your generate documents and you did a bulk update records, so that moved all your prospects to mail letter 1. It's for the benefit of those that are, fairly new. So you're going to move it into the next status. So once you move that into the next status, they're going to be in the system now. They live in the system, not the prospects. They live in the system under the mail letter 1 status, which is great. So to answer your question, what do you do with them? You just leave them there. And they stay in the system, so that is correct. And the mail letter 1 when you import new records, they come in prospect status. When you import any records, if you import any new records, the new records are going to come in prospect status. So you'll still keep your mail letter 1 status records in there. And I'm going to show you why that's a beautiful thing. The new ones will come in prospect status. The other ones will remain in mail letter 1. This is great because they will all have their, unique identifiers that Investment Dominator assigned to them. And like, let's say a year from now, and this is honestly what we're doing even right now, or part of the records we send out. I'll come in here and I'll select so many of these guys. Usually I'll just look at a range. I'll do a range of numbers, so I can select them all in one swoop, right? And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the status. And guess what I'm going to change it to? I'm going to change it right back to prospect status. So the reason I change it back to prospect status is because we want to mail to these folks again. We mailed to them, let's say, a year ago. If none of these records got processed, which means they didn't get moved on to pending preliminary research because the people probably did not even accept or they didn't ask for an offer. They weren't interested. But we mailed to them over a year later. And we've done this with 4 different counties where we've come in, selected records, mailed them again to those same people. And guess what? They weren't ready a year ago, but they're ready today, or they're ready a month ago. And they now want an offer on that property. Remember, people, it's just going through the numbers, and it's also a timing issue when it comes to people accepting your offers or wanting offers on their property. They may not be ready in 2019, but catch them right after Christmas in 2020 when they've spent all their money on, the kids, and they realize, hey, I need to recoup some finances. They'll probably be looking for you to give them an offer. So hope that gives you an idea what you do with the mail letter 1 records, Caesar and Shonda. You just keep them in there and mail back to those lovely people a year or so from now. And you and them will be happy campers. Okay. Good question still coming in. All right. And those of you with coaches, I'm getting some comments about what your coach is telling you. Hey, that's perfectly fine. If you want to, they're saying that some of the coaches are recommending that they put them in hold status instead of the mail letter 1. Hey, that's fine. If that's your business process, if that works for you, and that all of your holds, you may at some time in the future come back and process. Hey, that's fine. Put them on hold. We leave them actually at mail letter 1 because it tells me that that particular person didn't get any further than getting a letter mailed to them. It tells me that since the system automatically, when I go back in here and I do my generate documents at this level, after I select them and I want to mail to them again, I do generate documents, or I'll do change the status rather, and it automatically, the system is ready to move them back to prospect. So it's just a 2-step move for me to get all those records back in prospects. And when all my prospect records are going to the letterprinting.net so that they get, sent another letter. But hey, you have coaches. I want you to defer and do exactly what your coach tells you, because that is what they are there for. That's what they're being paid for. All righty, you wonderful people. Let's see. We have another good question here from Scott. And he says, I do a lot of cross-checking on records and have to keep on going to search by. Okay, I totally understand this, Scott. Um, you're searching by last name, or you're searching by, whatever criteria you might be searching by. Let's see. So you do a lot of cross-checking on records and have to keep going to search by, then enter the last name, put in the last name, and click on search. So if I were looking for, let's say, Ferguson, Scott would have to come up here, search by, go last name, put in Ferguson. First, you have to be able to spell, Warren. Okay, Ferguson, and then you have to do search by, and you get all the Fergusons. So that's at least 3 steps. And he's saying, can we leave the last box open so I can keep putting names in to shorten the step? Oh, you're talking about just keep this search box, let's say by last name, and somehow keep this open. I imagine that might be a suggestion, but we can put that suggestion in, Scott. But what might be a better idea is to use the advanced search. And this is one cool feature about the advanced search. If I want to create a search and I want to say, I want to search by last name equal to Ferguson, this might be at least one step, eliminate one of your steps. So I want the last name to equal to Ferguson. And let's say I want to add a rule here where the county, you don't have to have multiple searches to do what I'm going to do here, but I'm just showing you how easy. Let me say if state, that's a little better. Property state, okay, is equal AZ. All right, so I'm creating my search here. So the main thing, we want to search for the last name. Now I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to put it under last name search 08. Okay, so that's my search. It's going to equal, last name is going to equal to Ferguson and state of Arizona. So I click OK. That creates my search here. And this is what we call an advanced search. So when I execute that search, here it is. It pulls up anyone whose last name is Ferguson and whose state is Arizona. So if I wanted to change that, let's see, I could easily, if I wanted to leave the state alone, but I could easily go into my advanced search, and anytime I want to execute that, I can just bring it up. It brings up the search. I can just change the last name here to, I don't have to go through, bringing up my one search, but let's say Engado, and I update that, and I hit my search, and it brings me up this record. So the steps, instead of going, search, selecting last name, entering last name, then hitting search, what I am doing, I'm going and I'm hitting my advanced search, bringing up my search that I created, and I'm changing this to whatever I want to change it to. It's not totally like leaving it open, but this is a way of leaving the last name in play, and you have a search there. You can update it if you like, if you want to save it, and you can hit search, and it's a little bit quicker. So it saves, I think, at least one step, and it keeps your search criteria open. So what I would recommend you do, basically, Scott, is create yourself an advanced search, and they're really easy to do. And once you have that in place, then you can just come in here and modify it as you will. And, even if I don't save the search, um, once I bring in the name, change the name, I can just execute search, and it still will execute that search. It just won't update that search. So that's what I would recommend that you do. And let's see, we haven't had any more questions come in today, but if I missed your question today, I promise I will get it handled by Thursday at noon. And I'm hoping that you all will continue to send in your questions. And remember, you can do it by the ticket system. So I think the next on Thursday's call, we're going to handle one question we got over the weekend, which I think is really an important one to handle. And that is, when we import records, and let's say we choose a file. Okay, hate to have to go through this process, but I do. All right, demo data, imported list. Okay, so when we choose a file that we're going to import, I don't want to have too many records, new records coming in. Let's choose this record, and we upload the list. So I think on Thursday's call, we're gonna dissect these fields here. What exactly, 0 records added, existing records, just so you understand a little bit more about what's going on in the background, because I think some folks are a little concerned. Now that you successfully imported your prospect records, you can view them within the system or generate your mailings. Okay, this is another quick step Alex has added, but really understanding what's behind, how does it calculate the existing properties? What's behind properties added? So I think on Thursday's call, we're going to definitely get into that aspect of the output when you import. We're going to, what is the output of importing your prospect list? So this is just understanding this output here. And when 2 rows are imported completely, even though we might have had 10 rows in the file, why does it only say 2 rows imported completely? So just understanding this process, I think, will help you also be a little more comfortable with the numbers that you're seeing coming out here of Investment Dominator. So basically, that's all we have time for today, people. It's been great being with you once again. Thank you again for your enthusiasm, and those of you that are on here from the last 2-day session. I tell you, we had a good time with you, and we look forward to those that we will meet on the next 2-day. Leave you with this thought for this evening. Courage is the most important of all virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. And that was a quote from Maya Angelou. So have courage and continue to get your letters out. It's a timing thing. It's just running the numbers, running the large numbers as much as you can. and you will then begin to get those I accept your offers, and then finally marketing those properties and getting them sold. So have a great remainder of your evening and a great remainder of your week, at least until Thursday. And we will look forward to seeing you on Thursday's call or talking with you on Thursday. Thank you much, everybody. Bye bye now.